everyone, and
Hi.
welcome to our very first whiskey review.
Whiskey!
Very nice. Today we will be reviewing a whiskey. Sorry, I keep thinking fragrance in my head, but we will be reviewing a whiskey from Kings County Distillery called it's just Bourbon whiskey.
So Kings County, for those of you who are not familiar with New York, is the county that governs Brooklyn. And this is the oldest distillery in New York City, in any of the boroughs that encompass New York City. It was founded in 2010, which is very recent, but it makes it the oldest distillery in New York City.
Awesome. So we're actually going to be following this tasting notes guide that we actually bought, just because we actually did another review. And we found ourselves kind of rambling throughout the entire thing.
We were rambling,
and
especially
it went
me.
on for me too. I was not there, and we found ourselves rambling for like 18 minutes and stuff like that. And we wanted to be a little bit more succinct, so we decided to start, following an actual guide that will kind of walk us through and pretty much give you guys, I guess, a much more thorough grasp of the whiskey.
Yeah, to walk you through the different notes that you should be picking up on, or different things you should look for in a whiskey, and what may appeal to you, and what price points you should be looking at. So we are very excited for this new line of our channel.
Yeah.
And hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. So without further ado, I guess we can jump in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start. So just want to give you some general information. One, obviously Kings County, it's called Bourbon whiskey, and it really doesn't have a name outside of that. They've got 3 different whiskeys that are with it. A clear moonshine type whiskey, a chocolate whiskey, and this
bourbon,
which is what we'll be doing today, right?
Yes, and to expand on that, there are actually several different kinds of whiskeys that are under the American Whiskey Board, and the different kinds are actually based on 4 different grains. So for those of you who don't know much about whiskey, you can have rye, which is from rye. You can have a barley-based whiskey. You can have wheat, and you can have corn. The one he referred to as moonshine is actually a corn whiskey. All of the other 3 can be blended, but according to the American Whiskey Board, there are certain percentages that have to constitute one type. So rye has to be, I think, 51% of the mash has to be from rye, etc., etc.
Right.
All of those, the rye and the barley and the wheat, have to be aged in char-grilled oak barrels for a certain amount of time. It's usually, I think, 2 to 4 years, except for the corn whiskey, which does not have to be aged at all. And usually if it is aged, it is in a reused bourbon barrel or in an charred oak barrel, which means that the corn whiskey is clear, hence moonshine, just because it's unaged, it's quicker to produce, and it's clear. But it is still considered whiskey. But the one we're tasting today is a bourbon, which is aged, and it gives us this nice coloring. You can tell it's kind of like a nice caramel color. It's been aged in that charred oak barrel, and usually bourbon is a little on the sweeter end. Okay. So maybe you can walk us through some of the notes while I go ahead and start pouring.
Sure, absolutely. So actually, even before that, so this is a 90 proof whiskey, or 90 proof bourbon. It's priced at about $25 for 200 milliliters.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what does 90 proof mean in terms of alcohol content?
So proof means when you're getting the proof of a alcohol or of a whiskey, you're basically just multiplying the percentage alcohol by 2, and you can do the reverse as far as getting the alcohol percentage from proof. Okay.
So if this is 90 proof, it means it's 45% alcohol. Whiskey can be no more than 80% alcohol, or 160 proof.
Okay. Now, it's aged, this particular whiskey is aged roughly under 4 years. So that's all they claim. It could be anywhere from, 1-ish year to 4 years, but that's how much it's aged.
And we only know that because like I said, this distillery... Oh wait, I didn't say that. Sorry. This distillery is the oldest distillery in Kings County, and it was opened in 2010. So we know that it can't be more than 4 years old.
Right.
And the reason that it is the oldest distillery in New York City but did not open until 2010 is because there were very stringent laws against opening your own distillery after Prohibition. And even though the federal laws were lax after Prohibition, which was repealed in 1933, the state laws didn't catch up. And New York State, even though it has this really rich history of distilling, which we can get into in another review, it was one of the last kind of states to sort of strictify, so like make more lax those laws against distilling. And both the laws were very strict and also the tax infrastructure. So there were enormous fees and taxes in starting up a distillery until the early 2000s. So Hudson Valley Distillery in the Hudson Valley was the first in New York State, and then Kings County Distillery was the first in New York City. I believe Hudson Valley was in 2004 and Kings County in 2010. So you can tell how recently this is.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole micro distilling industry has really taken off in the last 10 years, kind of piggybacking on the microbrewery industry. So I'll give you a history lesson in another one, but
okay,
we want to taste.
All right, so let's get on to the tasting for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start with the actual notes for it. So which one do you want to start with?
So I've poured it, I don't know if you can tell, but I've poured it in 3 ways. One with a large ice cube, one with a little bit of spring water, and one just neat. So I say we start with neat and work our way up.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm going to taste, this is just neat, there's no water, no ice. Wow, that is really, really good. It's very, very good. It's smooth, I think.
Yeah, it's
relatively
very
smooth.
If you were to classify it note-wise, would you say floral?
No, I don't think I would say floral.
Spicy?
Maybe a little.
I'll say spicy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd say it's got a little spicy. Yeah.
Woody?
Yes, definitely woody. I definitely taste that oak. That charred oak.
Sorry, smoky?
No, not smoky. You?
Nah. Leather?
No.
Okay. Fruity?
Yeah, actually, I do put that on the more fruity, sweet end.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Citrus?
No. Not so much.
Okay. Solvent or astringent?
Maybe
I think it's a little.
a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little. Like, give it a half check.
Yeah. Grass?
No, I don't taste so much grass.
Okay. Or honey caramel?
Actually, yeah, I definitely taste that kind of honey caramel note. Yeah, that's got a note coming through.
Okay. So, more sweet or more dry?
I would say this is more sweet. It is a bourbon.
Okay. So, if we have them on each end of the scale, 10 being over here, 10 being over here for sweet and dry, which one would you put it at?
So I would put it on like a 2 on the sweet end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it would be, it's more on the sweet side, basically.
Yeah, so if this is sweet and this
But
is
not
dry,
overly sweet.
it's like here. Yeah, not in
Right.
the middle, but just a little on the sweet end.
I would put it roughly the same.
Yeah.
So the other measure is delicate or bold. Same on the spectrum.
I actually would put it just right in the middle.
Okay. All right.
What about you?
I put it at like a 2 for bold. No, delicate. No, that probably means it's at a 0. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I think it's got a good balance, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And smooth or intense?
I actually think it's probably on the more smooth side.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was actually, I think, my first descriptive
Yeah.
word that came out. So I would probably put it at like a 3 end on the smooth side.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would give it a 6 for smooth for me.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay. Okay. So let's actually just take this time. So we had it neat. Let's take it with a little bit of spring water, see how it comes out.
A little bit of spring water.
Mm-hmm.
It's more smooth. It's taking away, it takes away a lot of that kind of initial bite.
It does.
Yeah. It's good. It's much smoother that way.
It is much smoother this way. That said, I think... Gotta try some. I think this actually may be one that I wouldn't add spring water to.
No, I think I would have it neat.
Yeah.
But let's try it with the ice cube. Sometimes that brings out a different note.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the ice cube to the spring water. I think it brings out, oddly enough, I think it brings out a little of the smoky flavor, which I didn't even think was there.
It does.
It's really good. It just makes it kind of have a different flavor.
It brings out something
I don't know if
smoky?
smoky is the right word, but it does bring out a different note.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
And it retains that smoothness, which
Maybe
is nice.
it's that wood, that like charred oak flavor that comes out a little bit.
Right.
It's really good. Yeah, I like it with the ice cube.
Okay. All right. So now we move on to kind of our evaluation section.
I give this an A-.
Of bourbons, would you recommend it as a bourbon? Basically, would you recommend it to be?
As a bourbon, yes, I would. I would strongly recommend this as a bourbon. I think it's very smooth. I think it's drinkable.
Okay. Would you recommend it overall?
I would recommend it overall, and I would also recommend it to new bourbon drinkers as kind of an intro bourbon.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Is it interesting?
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's interesting. I think there's really good notes in here.
Unusual?
I wouldn't say unusual.
Okay.
I think it's pretty usual, but very good. Yeah, I really like it.
Okay. All right. So overall, do you think this whiskey met our expectations? Did it exceed our expectations, or were we disappointed?
So, given the fact that, like we said, this is a very new distillery. I mean, it's only been 4 years. It's like a baby in terms of distilling. I would say this exceeded my expectations.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a really good job with this. I know we have been there. We went on a tour this weekend. I know that they take a lot of pride in their work, and this is, you know, their baby, and they're really working to make sure that all of their customers are pleased. And I am very well pleased with the taste and the overall experience. Okay. And I'm gonna keep this on my bourbon rack.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go ahead and give it a score 1 through 10, what would you give it?
I would probably give this one like a 7, maybe a 7.5.
Okay. So we'll go with 7.5 then.
Yeah, 7.5.
Okay.
And I very rarely rate anything a 10. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go ahead and describe this whiskey in one single word, how would you describe it?
I actually would probably pick smooth.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. If I'm allowed to say smoothie caramel, I would say that, but I would go with smooth.
Okay. All right.
What about you?
That's pretty accurate.
What's your one word?
Smooth is the first thing that comes to mind to me, just because, you know, I'm used to drinking, I guess you'd say, a lot more heavy.
Yeah, like that.
Bourbon that basically, you know, kind of gives you that burning in your chest type thing. This one really doesn't do that, and it's almost like I'm actually expecting the kickback, the bite from...
Yeah, and it doesn't come, and you're just like...
It just never comes.
Yeah, and you're left with that nice flavor, that like oak caramel flavor. Yeah,
it's very easily drinkable, and I do think that the first word for me that comes to mind is smooth.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
A smooth bourbon by Kings County Distillery.
Yes.
All right, guys. So hopefully we'll do another one in a week or two, and see you the next time.
So let us know if you have any criticisms, if you have any comments, any suggestions how we could possibly do this. Obviously, this is our first whiskey review, so we would always like, you know, suggestions of how to improve it.
But be constructive in your criticism.
There you go.
Yes. And until next time, drink responsibly, have a great day, and check out Kings County Distillery. We think you'll like it.
Take care, guys.
Bye.